a lot of times, including myself, I used to feel stuck. I cannot believe I wanted, I really wanted, but I just cannot believe. And when you get in that state, you're actually going against the formula of believing, because what you're doing is you're focusing on the fact that you don't believe and you're reinforcing not believing. Your mind uses a formula to believe into anything. And today I'm going to help you crack the code of believing so that you can believe in your vision of 2026, your grandest vision, with mathematical precision. And when I say mathematical precision, what I mean is 2 plus 2 equal 4. I live by this formula and I've taught this to many thousands and thousands of my clients. The recent result that I had with this formula is my brand new corporate consultancy got into the multi-million-dollar partnership with the largest tech giant in the world. I learned this formula from my mentor, Bob Proctor, although in my work and in my teachings, I've taken it to mathematical precision, being really, really precise with it. And this formula is inspired by the teachings of Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich. Before I share with you, I want to share with you a powerful story from Think and Grow Rich. When Andrew Carnegie, who was the richest billionaire in the world, met Napoleon Hill, and he asked Napoleon Hill if he would like to capture the learnings of the greatest mind in the history of humankind who have accumulated so much riches. And Napoleon Hill agreed to do that. Andrew Carnegie asked him to write a goal card. When Andrew Carnegie showed him and told him what's going to be in the goal card, Napoleon Hill's face was red, and he was thinking, how on earth can I even believe into this? Andrew Carnegie said to him, write on the goal card, Andrew, I'm going to meet you at the goalpost and break your own record. I'm going to meet you at the goalpost and bypass your own record. When Napoleon Hill was thinking, and Napoleon Hill said something to Andrew Carnegie on those lines, that there is no way I can even imagine it. This is too big. This is too big for me to even think about it. And Andrew Carnegie said something which you really want to pay attention, because that's where this formula begins. Andrew Carnegie said, yes, you are not going to believe it till you read it every day for 30 days. Now, when he said read it for 30 days, why did he say that? And there is a neuroscience behind this. Believing at a state of faith is a state of your mind. And I see a lot of coaches and a lot of people say believing is a choice. You just have to believe. And a lot of times, including myself, I used to feel stuck. I cannot believe I wanted, I really wanted, but I just cannot believe. And when you get in that state, you're actually going against the formula of believing, because what you're doing is you're focusing on the fact that you don't believe and you're reinforcing not believing. What believing really is, when I say it's a state of the mind, it's neuroscience, what I mean is that your mind creates associations based on what it has been exposed to. When you were little, you were learning things, you were learning alphabets, you were learning how to talk. You asked your parent, what is this thing that's flying in the sky? And they told you it's a bird. It's a pigeon, it's a sparrow, it's a crow, whatever they told you. And you build an association that anything which flies and have wings is a bird. Your neurons in your mind, which are your brain cells, they fired and they built connections, because when neurons fire together, they wire together, they wired. So anytime you saw something that is flying, you connect it to the idea of bird. That is a cognitive connection. This is the cognition that you see a bird and you connect it to the idea that it's something that flies and that's a bird. Similarly, when you see a vehicle with four tires, you consider it a car, because in your mind, the definition, the catalog of a car is anything with 4 tires is a car, right? And anything with 2 tires is probably a motorcycle. These are all the associations and connections that get built. And when you see something, it triggers the association in your mind. You have certain association when it comes to how you see you, your self-image based on what happened in school, based on what tags you were given, whether you were an A-class student, B-class student, whether you were told you're not good enough, you cannot figure things out, whether you were told you need to work really, really hard, then you can crack things, whether you were told it has to be sacrifices. You have certain cognitive association with money, right? And similarly, like you had a concept of the bird or concept of the car, you have an association with money and a concept of money. When the things you were exposed to with money happened, they build neuron connections, and those neurons fire together, they wire together, and that's how your brain has been rewired. There's a beautiful concept in neuroscience called neuroplasticity, where what we do is we take an idea that you already know, that's a pre-existing idea, we replace it with a new one. And there are two things that we do to replace it. The first thing we do is repetition, and the second thing we do is emotion. Repetition and emotion can change the neural pathways, and it can help new neurons connect. What is coming back to the idea of believing and the state of believing? What is the state of believing? The state of believing is when your old neurons and old notions and old ideas of that thing have gone so deactivated that they eventually broke the connection. And because you are exposed to the new idea, they built the connection. When Andrew Carnegie said to Napoleon Hill, you won't even believe that until you do it for 30 days. And then what happens is, first few days when Napoleon Hill was saying it to himself, he was looking in the mirror, he said, oh my God, this is ridiculous. And his brother was sleeping in the same room as him. So when he said, I cannot stay in front of him, so I need to go to the toilet. They were still at Andrew Carnegie's house. He went to the toilet and he looked in the mirror and he whispered, because he did not want his brothers to hear this, because it was absolutely ridiculous for Napoleon Hill. After 15 days, Napoleon Hill thought, you know what? It could be possible. It's not absolutely ridiculous. You see how now the old neurons were breaking and the new neurons were connecting, and his state was, it could be possible, probably. Okay. And then after 30 days, Napoleon was like, I absolutely believe it's possible. It is possible. Absolutely. What happened was, if we understand from neuroscience perspective, the old neurons, the old associations start to weaken, and as the new neurons got activated, new connections, new associations got activated, they start to wire together, and the mind got rewired. It got into a reconfiguration, different state, different physical structure, different wiring and connections. And that is a state of believing. What I teach my clients is that there are 3 powerful steps that they can take and you can take today to get in the state of believing, no matter how big that vision is, no matter what the circumstances say, because once your brain is wired to that, it's inevitable, because it's new normal. That's what you're coming from. That's what your place is. But this is not a choice. This is neurology. So you cannot just say, if you want it, you will believe it. You need to understand the science behind believing, right? And of course, you have to want it to do the science, to execute the science, but choice is not enough. Therefore, so many people try to believe in things, and they keep on getting emotionally involved with the idea that I'm not believing it, what's wrong with me? And they reinforce the whole neural pathway when all they had to do is reconfigure. Right? The way Bob Proctor explains this is, if you reevaluate an idea long enough, you will start to believe it. That means if you question it long enough. He used to say, if you write a lie on a card and you read it often enough, all these things that you are doing, you are building new neural connections. Now, the first thing what we want to do in the 3 steps is, we want to understand what is our current neural pathway, because you cannot change anything until you know what it is. You start to look at your results. You start to look at your experience, which you don't like as such, and you want to change it. And you say, what is my current neural pathway? What am I believing, which is causing this reality? Going one step deeper and saying, what is my belief system that is producing that? Once you become aware of that, there is no guilt or shame, because it's just a neural connection. Let's not take it personally. And this is the greatest learning of my life. There is nothing wrong with you. It's just a neural pathway. Change it, right? You experience with money. In all of that, what you want to do is you want to release the emotions first, because emotions is the catalyst. If you release the emotions, the association becomes loosen up, right? It starts to loosen up and it's not as powerful. Emotions is like a catalyst gel that is connecting it all. How you release the emotion, you find the thing. When you say that thing, you'll find a sensation in your body. For example, I have to work really hard to attract money or to earn money. You find a sensation in your body and you breathe into that sensation. You take a deep breath and you breathe into that part. As you breathe out, you breathe into that part. What it does is it alkalines that emotion, which is literally a chemical, and it gets released from your body. It dissipates. Now, the effect, the power effect, the catalyst gel has gone. What you'll do is you will say, let me choose a new belief, a new idea. Probably it's like saying, I was told the flying thing is a bird, but I'm going to choose to believe it differently, right? And you try it on, because there's a part of you who would argue, who would say, this can't be true, this is ridiculous, like Napoleon had said. But once you understand it's just a neural connection, there's nothing personal, just try a new neural connection. When you decide to take it on, and that's where the choice comes in. So choice is not in cracking the code of believing. You cannot just crack the code of belief by choice, but you choose to take on a new belief and then apply the neuroscience. When you take the belief, right, and you say, okay, let me be open to it now. Let me see. So what happens is your reticular activating system has now changed the filter, and now it's focusing on, could it actually be true? Is it possible? When I started my business, at that time, I had 3 kids and the 4th was on the way. There was no part of me which could believe that being such a busy mom, full of chaos and kids' responsibilities and one being on the way, how would I be able to create a very successful business? I took a new belief that my kids are the biggest enabler of my success. I literally took on this belief because I used to believe otherwise. Because of kids, I couldn't do it. I chose a completely ridiculous belief. In the beginning, I didn't even believe it. And that's the whole point. You won't believe it until you apply the neuroscience. You don't have to believe before it. You have to believe after it. You try it on, you take it on, you absolutely may not believe it. But then the moment you do that, your reticular activating system starts to see, oh, it could. I started to look at other women who were wildly successful and had lots of kids. I remember when my 4th one was born, I used to do lives and I used to carry her because she used to cry if I would leave her on her own, and there was nobody to look after her at that time. My husband was busy, other kids were too little, and because of that, my videos started going viral because I was carrying a baby, and everybody was interested to see. That was the greatest hook, right? I started to see the evidence of how my kids are the biggest enabler, and I started to realize that the reason I'm so motivated is because I'm not just doing it for myself, I'm doing it for them. I am paving the path for them. Everything starts to add up when I try it on, because my reticular activating system switched the filter from my kids are the reason I can't to my kids are the reason I can. They are the reason. That's why I can. What you start to do is you start to try that belief on. You start to notice the evidence. The more you notice the evidence, the more you emotionally feel it. You start to really connect with that belief emotionally, because emotions are the gel. You start to really feel them. And the third thing, once you start to really feel that shift within you, you feel like, I want to act in alignment, I want to do something, you do it. You take inspired action. You act in the alignment of the belief. Sometimes it's very uncomfortable, but you still do it, because the moment you do it, the new identity and the new code solidifies. It's like you put a stamp on it. You acted in alignment. You proved that I am it, right? First, you release the emotion. Second, you try it on and you feel your way to it. You start to see the evidence. You choose to see it. You emotionally connect with it. And when it comes to emotionally connecting, I use a lot of tools. I use different songs that really raise my vibration, that make me really feel connected to it. I give those songs the meaning, right? So for example, if there's a song which is about empowerment, there's a song by Sia, which is Greatest Self, right? When I am really working on my identity and being my most bold and empowered self, I would listen to that song, Greatest by Sia, and that would really connect with the emotion. I would use a perfume and connect the feeling with the fragrance of the perfume. Every time I would put the perfume, I would think about that belief and emotions, and then a point will come where I'll connect a neural pathway that this perfume signifies this belief. And if I keep doing it, then it just happens automatically. I connected with the handbag, I connected with getting my nails done and the color I use. I connected with the watch I wear. I use everything outside of me to reinforce the belief within and emotions within. A lot of people say this, that my circumstances are getting in the way of my beliefs. And I turn them around, and I've taught this to my clients as well, that you reconfigure your circumstances, change the meaning, change what they're symbolizing right now, and connect them to what you're embodying, and you see how fast it works. And then you act in alignment. The more you work on the feeling and the connection and the recoding, because when you are feeling something, emotionally connecting, and repetition using outside things to symbolize that, the faster. The speed of changing a code dependent on the emotion and is depending on the repetition. I have managed to change beliefs and identities and seize the evident end result as early as 3 weeks or even faster. It's really, really, really powerful. It doesn't have to take long. The moment you choose to see a new belief, your outside reality shifts and it shows you a different evidence. That happens within a day. When I started to believe that attracting money is easy, I saw the evidence the same moment. So that was a choice, right? And then you act in alignment. And a point comes when you when you're acting in alignment, your whole configuration of your mind has changed with respect to that thing. And now that thing becomes normal. And you think, you remember that time when I used to believe that? That was crazy, right? That's when you know that you have completely reconfigured. And that's how you can crack the neuroscience of any belief. Nothing is outside of you. Nothing is outside your reach. Nothing is the fact that you cannot and other people can. Once you crack the neuroscience of believing, everything is at your disposal.